right. Well, hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our BAM session. Let me get into our training portion today. Today's main topic is the NAR settlement. So it was 1 year ago when NAR settled with the attorneys for the plaintiffs. It was a remarkable, historic lawsuit. Some attorneys became historically rich through the process, making hundreds of millions of dollars, while the supposed plaintiffs, I think they walked away with it like $17 per person or something like that. So it was crazy. And at the time, there was a lot of debate. There was a lot of panic. There was a lot of criticism, a lot of debate, a lot of panic about what was going to go on. A lot of agents were saying, "Hey, I'm just going to get out of the business because I feel like there's no future. There's no way that we'll be able to do it." So many agents did bail out. 10 or 20% of agents in the last year decided to just get out of the business. And I tend to be an optimist. There in any crisis, there's always a way to get through. There's always a way to figure out how to make it, how to survive, and how to succeed, how to excel. And through this process, we took our agents on a journey, and most of our agents were extremely successful in that. And we've weathered the storm. So it's been about a year, but I wanted to share with you, really interestingly, what has been the result of that. And so let me share an article that just came out this week in the Wall Street Journal. Okay, so the Wall Street Journal, which sometimes the Wall Street Journal has good articles, sometimes they don't. In the last couple of years, I've not been as big of a fan as I may have been earlier in my life, but they have this article, Why a Landmark Settlement on Realtor Fees Hasn't Cut Costs. And it says experts point to everything from buyers' reluctance to bargain to housing market slump for reasons that commissions may remain stuck. And I thought it'd be interesting to share this article with you. If you look at this chart of agent commissions, it's really interesting. You and I have always known that commissions have always been negotiable, and they tried to serve it up as if we've had this requirement of commissions. They're not negotiable. We know that they're negotiable. We've been negotiating them for all of our careers, so we know that. And it's interesting that back in 2023, the average commission was a little over 2.5%. If you look at this chart, it comes down to right here. You see this bottom point? That is when they had the landmark decision. Right here. That's when they had the landmark decision of the NAR settlement, and they had to pay all this money. We now have to tell buyers, get them to sign a buyer's agent agreement, and that happened right here. And isn't it interesting that commissions went back up after that point? I find that to be amazing. And it turns out the sky was not falling. So their article says this: the real estate industry's landmark settlement reworked how real estate agents get paid, raising hopes that the costs associated with home buying and selling would come down. How many of you heard everyone was saying, "Hey, I heard we don't have to pay buyer's agent commissions anymore"? I mean, that was the new, they were putting that on the news. They were putting that, all the press releases were saying that buyer's agents, I don't know what they thought they were going to do, volunteer work now, just work for people for free. And I had people coming to me all the time saying, "Hey, I heard buyer's agents aren't going to be getting paid anymore." And I would always tell them, they're not going to work for free, and people need buyer's agents. This isn't just buying a car on online on autotrader.com. This is buying a house. This is one of the biggest investments that people have. And I knew there's no way that buyer's agents are going to work for free. Turns out I was right. They aren't working for free. The average commission, it says a year later, it hasn't happened. The average commission paid to buyer's agent in the second quarter of 2025 was 2.43% of the home's sale price, up from 2.38% a year earlier. Isn't that amazing? So commissions have actually gone up in the past year, and so many people were panicking, agents were panicking, you know, filling out applications to work at Starbucks because they were afraid their commissions were going to go away. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. So it says here, nothing's changed, said Jack Miller, chief executive of real estate consulting firm T360. This is a very durable industry in terms of the fees that it charges. It really is. A $418 million settlement was reached between the National Association of Realtors and plaintiffs' attorneys to settle allegations that the system for paying agents kept their fees artificially high. The new system, which took effect in August of 2024, is intended to make it easier for buyers to directly negotiate their fees with agents. This just seems remarkable to me. Nothing changed except for some attorneys became ridiculously rich. Now they wanted to come up with some theories about why is that happening. They surveyed, interviewed some executives in the business to say, why is it that the prices, the agent commissions didn't change? What's causing them to stay at this same similar amount or even to go up? So there's several theories that they're exploring. Theory one is that agents don't want to change. And in particular, they point out here that listing agents, when they are listing a property, they tell the seller, hey, you're probably going to want to pay a buyer's agent commission. Get prepared to pay a buyer's agent commission because you're going to eliminate a lot of the market if you don't. So that's one of their theories and they're saying it sort of as if it's a negative thing to tell sellers that. Before the settlement, listings of homes for sale in the industry databases included information on what the seller intended to pay the buyer's agent. Buyers rarely negotiated fees with their own agents because the fee was essentially set by the seller. In the new system, these databases no longer include the information about fees. This is so buyers and their agents can discuss upfront without being swayed by what a seller is willing to pay. But agents can still communicate about fees off the database. Some sellers say that their agents have warned them that buyers might avoid their home if they don't make an offer to cover the buyer's agent cost. Doug Miller, a real estate attorney and consumer advocate. I always love consumer advocates. They make money usually finding complaints somehow. But he said he has received many emails from listing agents promoting 2.7% fees for buyer's agents. They're broadcasting a message. This is what you should be charging, he said. Sellers should have the choice of whether to offer compensation to buyer's agents, said Kevin Sears, NAR's president. So they're trying to make it sound like a negative thing that we would communicate that, but it is the truth though. Uh, the vast majority of buyers use a buyer's agent to purchase a home, and the vast majority of buyers cannot afford a down payment, closing costs, and an agent fee up front. So it makes sense for the seller to pay that, and the seller gets that money from the buyer anyway. So that's the whole point of it. The buyers are still paying it. They're just paying it through the seller, through the loan, basically. So anyway, that's their first theory is that agents don't want to change. The second theory that they're suggesting is that the housing market is in a slump, and it is. And there's reasons for that. A lot of it to me has to do with the interest rates, has a lot to do with the market slump. And whenever I see the people in Washington making those decisions, it always reminds me of the Wizard of Oz. There's this little man behind the curtain that's pulling the dials and making things. Well, that's the way it is with our economy in a lot of ways. So because the housing market is in a slump, then it's starting to turn more to a buyer's market than a seller's market, which I think is more of a balanced market. It's kind of the way it should be. And it's giving both sides kind of an equal footing on the negotiations. So they're seeing that as a reason why, because buyers now can negotiate the buyer's agent commissions more easily because it's shifting more towards a buyer's market. I won't read all of that, but that's basically what they're saying. Theory three is that buyers aren't negotiating. So only 27% of recent home buyers negotiated with their agent about fees or even tried to, according to Redfin survey conducted this spring. It says it is still very common for sellers to cover the cost of the buyer's agent. So buyers might not feel a need to negotiate or realize that they can. Can you believe that they'd actually say that? That they still think buyers don't realize they can negotiate their commissions, even though it says everywhere on every document numerous times that commissions are negotiable. It's unbelievable how they would say that. But a lower buyer's agent fee can make a buyer's offer more attractive to a seller. The settlement rules require buyers to sign agreements with their agents about payment before touring homes. Buyers are sometimes signing quickly under pressure of, I want to get out of the rain. I want to get in and see the home. So they're saying that people are standing out in the driveway in the rain and they think, oh, well, okay, just let me sign it. I want to get out of the rain. And I'll bet you if we survey our agents, that's not a scenario that's ever happened. To our agents. They're coming up with these fake scenarios. Maybe it happened once, but or maybe they found some guy in Vancouver, Washington, that had he was in the rain and he got out. So they found one guy, but that's not what's really happening out there. Let me see who else consults with a higher. Then they realize, wait a second, I just committed to 2.5% or 3% commission, and now I'm locked in with this person I just met. Now I will say some buyers agents may have signed agreements without really understanding the gravity of it. And especially, I would say our agents, we've trained and we have agents high on integrity, so we work to not do that. But I've seen agents from other brokerages who kind of slip in the documents and they sneak it in on them, and that's not good. I because of the way the NAR has set this up, my guess is there's going to be a lot of lawsuits in the future as just because it still doesn't seem like a good system to require somebody to sign a document before they tour a home. Bad idea. Okay. So theory number four is that the fees actually are not too high. That's been the complaint is, oh my gosh, how can they charge 3% of the price of the home to run this transaction? How can they charge such high fees? And it's the attorneys who are making 30, 40, 50% commissions on their lawsuits that are arguing that 3% is too high for realtors. The irony is amazing to me. But what they're saying, and I like that the Lee Perea, is that how you say his name, with EXP? Uh, he said that basically agents do earn their commissions, agents do work hard, and they should be rewarded for their hard work. Yes, yes, and yes. The fees aren't too high. It makes sense. So the market really is driving what the fees are. Uh, Theory five is change could show up later. Well, of course, everything can change later. That's not necessarily, to me, that's not some brilliant observation. Someday in the future, fees could change. So I think as agents, just keep a positive mindset and keep selling your value. I haven't heard of any of our agents, and maybe there are some, but I haven't heard of any of our agents who have taken hits because of the NAR settlement, hits in commission pay. There might be some isolated events out there, but our agents have been doing a great job selling your value. So just as a reminder, we do have a different strategy than other brokerages because we do have a touring agreement for one. And if you're newer to Plum Tree, and maybe you're not aware of this, we have a couple different options. So what is required um, because of the NAR settlement is that agents have a buyer agent agreement prior to touring a home. Okay. So we came up with our own strategy to this because everything I was seeing out there just looked really absurd. So there were some documents that were showing in most of the MLSs and the boards, they're creating these 4, 5, 6 page contracts that they're expecting people to sign before they look at a home. I thought, nah, that's too much. Can't do that. So we have the option of a touring agreement, which is a 1 page agreement, which basically says, for now, we're just looking at homes and I don't charge for that. That's free. And then this agreement starts on such and such date, ends on such and such date. You can make it a 1 day agreement. You can make it a 1 week agreement. You can make it a 3 month agreement, whatever you want. But this satisfies the requirements of the NAR when it comes to prior to while you're just looking at homes. However, before you actually write a contract, at some point, you do want to have what we call the loyalty agreement. This is another document that we've provided for our agents to give you an advantage over our competitors. Our competitors are all rolling out these 4, 5 page contracts. We have a 2 page loyalty agreement. This is an exclusive buyer agency agreement. Okay, exclusive buyer agency agreement. And it's basically an expression of mutual intent to work together in the home buying process. So we've scaled it back, we've softened it so it looks like a nice agreement between two people to let's work together and let's achieve the mutual goal of getting you your dream home. So this does have the requirements. Now, reason why this document is important, in particular in Ohio and in Indiana, they've actually codified it and made it law. What the NAR, their rule of having a buyer agent agreement in Indiana and Ohio, you literally have to have a agency agreement in place with specificity on the commissions prior to writing a contract. Now, that can be just before writing the contract, or it can be, you can use your touring agreement as kind of a dating period. And my strategy would be first meeting of someone, use a touring agreement, set up a buyer's agent strategy session where you sit down over coffee and talk about how to win the home, how you're going to help them make their dreams come home. And then you roll out in that meeting the loyalty agreement, say, hey, if you commit to me, I'll commit to you, and then use that loyalty agreement for that. So that's how we do it at Plum Tree. If you have questions, Scott and I, Marcy, Chris Johnson, we're all happy to help you with those things. So, all right. Well, with that, I'll let you guys get out there, go sell a house, go make some money, have a fantastic week. If we can be a help to you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. So, have a great week.